Welcome to another Ronel Talks Money show. Today we are going to discuss the 12J investments. And for those of you who are familiar with it, would know that there's been a lot of developments lately, and therefore you would know why it is important that we talk about this before the end of June. But I don't want to give too much away yet. We have Francois Herbst from the House of Growth with us today, who will talk us through the 12J investments. But I just quickly want to remind the viewers, remember to subscribe to the channel and to also go to the link in the description field where you can enter our monthly giveaway competition, where we also give away one of my books, Financially Fit and Wealthy. But I just quickly want to read you a short bio of Francois before I hand over to him. So, born with an entrepreneurial spirit, Francois Herbst already started doing business at a tender age. When he founded and managed his first construction business in a small coastal town near Cape Town at 16 years of age, he soon realized the cornerstone of business success and sustainable growth is a good financial foundation. Now qualified as a chartered accountant, together with his passion for entrepreneurship, he helps companies to scale. Francois was awarded SAICA's 2018 Entrepreneur of the Year award during the prestigious annual ceremony for the top 35 under 35 CIs. Now, I have attended this function last year, so I know it's really a huge achievement to just be recognized as part of that top 35. But if you even win one of the prizes, that is a super achievement. So, Francois, well done, and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Ronel. It's great to be here, and thank you for allowing me to share a bit about myself.
Yes, I want to start off. I think when I read your company's name, House of Growth, that already sounds very impressive to me. So maybe you can just share with us a little bit more about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I think without really realizing it, the concept of House of Growth actually came about when I was still very young. As you mentioned, I started my first business at 16 in Hermanus. At that stage, it was still a small coastal town, not so much anymore. I think it's one of the top 3 places to work remotely after COVID or something. So it's actually a booming little town. But at that stage, it was still a small town, and I had the opportunity presented to me to start my own business. And I just fell in love with entrepreneurship and business and everything. But I realized at that age, look, finances is very important. And to understand finances, if you don't, you will always be on the back foot. Therefore, I decided to study accounting and become a chartered accountant. And as soon as the opportunity arises for me to start what I actually love, and that's to be part of something, part of a business that's growing, I started House of Growth. So the House of Growth is actually currently built on 3 pillars. We've done it in stages. The first one we started 7 years ago, and was on the advisory side. So 7 years ago, House of Growth Advisory started, and that is where, in layman's terms, is call a CA type of work, where you need advice to grow your business, but you don't necessarily have enough capital or the need for a full-time CA. Then about 3 years ago, we also started a full compliance book accounting firm called House of Growth Accounting. And the third pillar we actually started in January of last year, which is a fund for venture capital. So the whole idea of House of Growth is to help entrepreneurs grow. And we now believe we have enough to assist entrepreneurs grow from cradle to not grave, but do ever after, with the start of just doing his compliance and his books, keeping record of everything. If he grows to an extent where we can provide additional advisory service, we also can now offer that. And the third portion of any growing business is the need for cash. And if you're in the right sector, and we now also have the ability to provide cash injection into businesses.
Okay, now I think that is really a very well-rounded solution for any entrepreneur. So I can obviously hear from your bio, from when you are talking, you are very passionate about entrepreneurship. But why would you say you have such a passion for entrepreneurship, and what other type of passions do you have?
I think being born is something you're more born with than develop, and I think it's more of a curse than anything else. Just joking, but no, entrepreneurship is really, I think it's something that is, you have, yes, you get great entrepreneurs that can grow it, but you just have natural entrepreneurs which is more inclined with it. So I think I find there's two main things on entrepreneurship. For me, I'm very goal set, so I love setting myself some goals, planning them out, taking it step by step, taking the risk, understanding the risks, and go. So I think having that goal setting mindset as to, I see opportunity, and now what to do with it. So step one, I see a lot of entrepreneurs that has a great end goal, but he doesn't necessarily know how to break it down in steps. So I think that portion of planning and strategic planning of it is very important. But the reason I actually love entrepreneurship is to see something that's currently underperforming, to find out how one can find the true value of that thing or business. So that's why we're in property development as well. I love seeing a plain earth open and to get around with architects to see how this earth can be developed into something. The same is with business. So property development is very tangible, you can see it, but it's to explore the growth potential and to make sure that the full potential of a certain asset is being realized. And if it's in businesses as well, I meet so many great entrepreneurs out there, and to help them find a way to grow their business and just reach their own goal is something phenomenal to me.
No, I totally agree with you, and I think there's a lot of reward in it that you will probably not find in a different kind of working environment. But I think while speaking about entrepreneurs, you say that you love seeing them grow. And one of the obstacles I believe that really a lot of entrepreneurs are struggling with is funding. And it is quite often that you will find that funding is literally that stumbling block that's keeping certain entrepreneurs to never reach their full potential. And you have mentioned now that you guys are doing venture capital. So maybe you can also just explain to us venture capital in layman's terms.
Now we must realize we actually, as South Africa, are in infant stages in entrepreneurship and in funding. We are years, decades behind countries like the UK and USA. So for them, talking about the funding term is normal. Being entrepreneurs, part of them, and we're still getting there. We're getting from a place where everyone worked for the government or police or on the train rails or didn't have the opportunity to work. But we now see first and second generation entrepreneurs, and they are actually fostering the next generation of entrepreneurs. So we are still very early in this, and that's why VC funding, venture capital funding, and any type of funding is actually so mixed up with all other fundings. People do not understand venture capital. So venture capital funding is a very specific funding, and it's not for everyone. You get friends and family funding, you get private investor funding, you get angels investor funding, then you create VC funding and private equity. And for VC funding is a company that wants to grow to a further point. It's not funding you require to buy an asset and that's it. No. So VC funding is most of the time you already earn income, or there's already a proof of concept. There's already the company's already generating some income, but he wants to exit to a private equity firm, or he wants to list or anything. But now he needs to employ people smarter than himself, the entrepreneur. He needs to put in structures and processes and help open some network marketing for them, where distribution channels are. So it's a very expensive stage in a business where cash is burned very quick. And it's to employ great people, it's to open the distribution networks. And that is VC funding. And VC funding is usually they help you set up the system, the structure, getting the right personnel in place, and then they want to exit after 3 or 5 years. And that's usually to a listing or to a private equity firm or bigger venture capital firm. And that is where it goes wrong. It's not an investor. I'm looking for an investor to invest in my company and I will pay him dividends for the next 20 years because that is part of his retirement. That's not VC funding. VC funding is they are actually involved in your business. They want to step up your business to the next by employing people that has high in salary expectations, which is the right people. So it's a very expensive stage in your business, and you are rightly so. Not all businesses necessarily get to that stage or past that stage because they try to do it themselves. They try to do it by bootstrapping, and it's just too expensive for them to do it themselves. So that is where VC funding is coming in. So it's a great concept, but not have the cash to grow to a massive success.
Yeah, so it's typically not for your startup entrepreneurs. You should already have a bit of a track record, and it's more kind of like to help you grow. But I think also then coming in based on your venture capital would be your 12J investments that we would like to discuss today. So maybe you can also just explain 12J investments to us in layman's terms, and then also why has this concept been introduced?
Yeah. Government realized a number of years ago they need to get the private sector more involved in job creation, and how they want to do it by equity funding to entrepreneurs. They can't do it themselves. So based on a very similar initiative in the UK, they started 12J, and 12J actually refers to Section 12J in the Income Tax Act, but everyone just call it a 12J investment. So it's very similar on an initiative brought from overseas. The idea of 12J is for us as funds, VC funds, to actually have to attract more capital easier. So they are willing, SARS is willing to give the investor a tax deductible expense, meaning he can deduct the full amount from his taxable income in order for him to encourage him to invest in a 12J registered fund. We as a fund then under mandate need to invest in underlying companies called QCs, qualifying companies. But the initiative is actually to help us as funds to more easily have access to capital, and for that they give a tax benefit to the investor, which is actually very lucrative. In some instances, people will get as much back as 45%. So it's really a great incentive tool. So Section 12J was brought into the Income Tax Act about 12 years ago, and in the Act it states that end of June 2021, which we are now approaching, the scheme will come to an end. We ask the government to extend this to extend this, but they have decided not to extend 12J past June, so we only have a month left or a few days left actually to get to a point where anybody interested in 12J needs to invest into this company. A lot of these funds do structure finance. So you don't need to put R1 million down right now as investment. You invest $1 million and you get a deduction on $1 million, but you can pay it off over 2 years. So there are most of these funds trying to assist these investors to a further extent by allowing them to pay off the investment amount, but they will get the full tax deduction on the investment amount.
Okay, now that sounds actually excellent from an investment point of view. But what would you say, what would the typical investor profile look like? What kind of investors do you typically is kind of finding this appealing or is getting involved in this?
Unfortunately, there's a narrative that's only for high income earners. So it's actually not. I think 12J is most probably the easiest way to structure your taxes, irrespective of the amount you earn. And yes, high income earners will get a greater tax deduction, so they can get up to 45% in the first year back from source. But if you own 20% back, you're still better off in a 12J than any other place. So it's anyone looking to save money other than a money market account. 12J, a lot of people compare 12Js with a retirement annuity, which is also tax deductible. And it's actually, except for the tax deduction, it's nothing similar. I mean, retirement annuity invest into funds that's on the JSE or other places. This is actually somebody looking to invest money only for 5 years thereafter. So I don't think we live in a society anymore where I can put money in a retirement annuity and I can only access it once I'm 55. And when I'm 55, then most probably I'll be in I'll still, or when I'm 55 and they're starting to repay it, there will actually be a tax. I need to pay taxes on this as well. Which, when, I don't know about your age, but I think when I'm 55, there will be people on Mars. And I can't have my money in an account for that long. I can't. And that's the nice thing about 12Js. Yes, I get a tax deduction now, but my money is only fixed for 5 years. And thereafter, I have a flexibility to invest it in anything and everything. So, I think more people miss this opportunity or still can grab this opportunity by investing in it, putting your money for 5 years. SARS allows you a deduction. Over and above that, the money will also be invested and you will get a return, which might even be better than a retirement annuity. So it's actually for anyone wanting to invest. Most funds has a minimum investment amount. Our one fund, we have two funds. The one is minimum 500,000. The other one we reduced to 150,000. But there's even funds only a minimum investment of 80,000. So it's actually anyone wanting to put the money for investment other than a bank account. Some people will earn a better return than others, high income earners, yes, but anyone can take advantage of this opportunity.
Okay, no, that's good to know that. And especially like you mentioned, you do not need millions to invest in this. You can still almost kind of for less than 100,000 also get away. But you said your fund, basically the minimum is 150,000. So that is excellent to know. But then I also want to know, because now you're obviously going to invest that money in entrepreneurial ventures. But what type of entrepreneurial ventures will typically benefit from these kind of investments? So maybe you can just expand a little bit. And from an entrepreneur point of view, what would be the requirements to get access to these type of funds?
So SARS has their own laws and regulations. They have the exclusion list, meaning that any business except those on the exclusion list. Companies like professional services, like our accounting firm, can't be in there. Property investing can't be in there. Commercial property. So SARS tried to narrow it to companies that is employing people. So if you are employing people, most probably you will be able to get funding from a 12J. But each 12J also has its own mandate. So our one mandate invests only in asset-backed property, asset-backed by properties in the guest house industry. Our other VC is full-on tech, fintech, medical tech. So it depends on the mandate of the VC himself as well. There's other VCs that specializes in car rentals and other solar panels. So there's so many opportunities for people there, but at the end of the day, it's actually any company except property investing is a big one that's excluded. Professional services are excluded. But yeah, at the end of the day, they will most probably rather look at the mandate of the 12J in determining if you are investing in it or not.
And how would you typically know kind of what the mandate of a specific fund would be, either from an investor point of view or from an entrepreneur point of view? And you maybe feel passionate about something specific and you want to invest your money in that kind of industry, or you are an entrepreneur who would actually like to access some of that funding. But how do you go about finding out about the mandates, and do you Google, or is there a list or something?
Company called GrowVest. They are administrators in the VC 12J space. They just recently had the annual presentation of all the VCs, and they have a nice list. So I think on GrowVest site themselves, you can actually access all the data of all the presenters there. I think they had about 20 or 30 people presenting the 12J there, presenting what they look into, what the opportunity was there for investors to see, okay, I want to invest in this fund, but also for people, entrepreneurs, to say, look, yeah, I want to go there and ask them to fund my business. So yeah, GrowVest has actually for the last 3 years had a massive annual event for that. It's very sad that this was the last one to be held. But yeah, I think GrowVest is a great one. And otherwise on LinkedIn, if you just search for the hashtag 12J, most 12J companies will appear, and you can see the investment brochure on there, or links to their website. So yeah, I think LinkedIn is a great one where you just can put in 12J, and a lot of them will pop up.
Okay, now that makes sense. But then we have mentioned now about all the latest developments, and that it's coming to an end at the end of June. But maybe you can just talk to us a little bit about the developments. Why did they decide to end it now in end of June? So just give us a bit of insight there as well.
So yeah, they left it very late, but mid-February this year, Tito Mboweni announced that the scheme will not be extended. So we naturally hope it will be, or in a different format, or something, but they extend. They are very vague on why, but I think at the end of the day, government just can't afford it. We just do not have the capital to allow taxpayers any deduction at this stage. With the relief funding for COVID and everything, we just do not have the cash available or the means to give high income earners 45% of their taxes back. I mean, income tax is actually such a big one. So we can't extend this as, I think, government. There's a lot to be said about them being socialist and there being a capitalist structure, and we can't. But I think at the end of the day, the big thing is just we as government just can't afford to give this absolutely a clear-cut incentive for anyone. Nobody even needs to structure his taxes. You only invest in it, you get your money back as easy as that. So this guy's paying hundreds of thousands of money to do a structuring to reduce their tax liability. And here, actually, 12J is sitting right in front of you, invest into this to get your tax money back. So, yeah, it is very unfortunate for them to go. But there's a very misconception in the market about 12J ending. And then everyone says, no, 12J funds will disappear. 12J funds are going nowhere. The incentive was for the investor and helping us as funds to more easily access capital. If you do not invest before end of June, you will lose your tax benefit on it. After June, I will continue raising capital. I will continue searching for opportunities to invest in. I will continue everything. You as investor will only lose out. You as investor won't have that additional benefit over and above the returns I'm giving my shareholders. You're actually losing on that as well. Yes, I would not as easily get access to capital. So there's a negative for me as well. But those funds are going nowhere. Going to continue being a venture capital fund. It's going to continue being raising capital and investing, as I said. The main thing is, if you do not act now, you will miss this opportunity to get your money, your taxes back.
Francois, I think it definitely is sad that they are ending the tax benefit specifically, because if you just think about the situation that South Africa is in, I mean, like entrepreneurship is probably the biggest solution to a lot of our problems. So that's really where we want to focus on. And I think everybody is saying, we want to have more people starting businesses. And I think with lockdown now, it also forced a lot of people to start businesses. So there's definitely a big shift towards entrepreneurship, and which is a very positive, but then the support structures are not there. And like we said, funding is a huge problem, but now you are even struggling more to get people to invest in these funds to be able to help more entrepreneurs. So it is actually, I think, a bit, moving backwards, and I understand the reasoning for it. But hopefully they can come up with something else that can be similar, or kind of, just motivating people to invest more in entrepreneurs and new ventures. But then you've also mentioned about more on the property development in terms and guest houses, those kind of things. Maybe you can also just touch on that. Where does that fit in?
So SARS do not want included in this property investing and property development per se. Where they are willing to allow property development is where it's building a guest house or part of a guest house, a hotel, or even student accommodation. But they do want to go back to the fact and say there are jobs being created on a sustainable manner. So they say in a hotel, there's people cleaning the hotel, there's people providing food and services. So within the hotel, there are services being rendered and jobs are being created. The same with guest houses. They call it hotel keeping. And then the further one is student accommodation. But they are very strict on to say, in the student accommodation, you must provide food or access to food for these students. Again, it's that operational part of the business they are after. You providing a service or product per se, but a service in providing people with a meal or access to a meal, which is very important to them. So there are 12J funds sailing very close to the wind, but something they don't want in the fund is Airbnb units where people stay tomorrow they are out. So guys are very creative in addressing that. But in the end of the day, if you go back to the true spirit of what SARS started 12J for, was to create sustainable, to help entrepreneurs access to equity funding, with the resulting effect being sustainable jobs. So if we stay true to that, is to say, yes, we need a property to keep a hotel, and yes, we need a property to do guest house, and yes, we must provide food for our students, then we are adding permanent employment onto the books. And that is where SARS is after.
Okay, and then this part on the property, is that also coming to an end now, end of June?
Yes. Everything, the tax benefit for the investors across the board comes to an end.
Okay. And then, so what you are actually saying, there's very little time left for investors to really make full use of this, because, I mean, it's a huge benefit if you really think about if you can invest. I mean, even if you can invest 150,000, it's a lot of money that you can save on your taxes. But now for investors who listen to this and say, okay, I must definitely try to get hold of this opportunity. What would the process be for them? How can they get involved in these investments? What is it just on your website, or how do they start?
If I were an investor, I would reach out to 12Js on LinkedIn. They are very active currently because they're trying to help as many people as possible. So on any platform, you can Google 12Js as well and ask for the investment pack. The investment pack is usually 2 or 3 pages just outlining what their mandate is, what they want to achieve, and expected returns. And you will quickly see on the website, or if you talk to your fund manager, as to what are they investing. Are they investing into tech? Are they investing into guest houses? Are they doing renewable energy? And by searching of Google or LinkedIn, you will very easily get access to a list of these. There's definitely your larger 12J providers, which is not maybe as unique and niche as others. But yeah, I think on LinkedIn and Google, you will get. Reach out to them. They will send you investors pack as well as a subscription. Most probably, you can just complete the subscription, pay over the money. If it's a structuring option, then we will provide you with a loan agreement as well. So yeah, if you want to invest into tech or to guest houses, the 2 funds we have, you're welcome to reach out to me. The community is also so small, so if you reach out to me and ask for somebody in the renewable energy space, I would happily refer you. So it's not a case of a small community currently, and we know each other. So by name, just by name, not but to refer one another. But I think step one is to reach out either to me, and I'm happy to assist you where I can and send you in any way, or to Google or LinkedIn. But yeah, to find out what the minimum amount of investment is, what mandate is it, what can you expect as a return, is very important information to have before you make this decision.
Okay, now, so I'm definitely going to share Francois' details in the description field so that you can get hold of him. And if you maybe just have questions or you want to invest in one of their funds, then I also want to ask you, I think a lot of people are also a bit, skeptical of investments after what has happened during this lockdown period, with all of the scammers doing the rounds. How would people typically know that they are dealing with a legitimate company or business when it comes to 12J investments or venture capital after the 12J period? Is there a way that they can check, or how can people just make sure that I'm not giving you my money and you're running away with it?
Great question. No, great question. So the thing about 12J is we need to be registered with the FSCA. And after registration with the FSCA, then we are registered with SARS as well as 12J. So SARS has a search engine as well as the FSCA to make sure that we are registered. And then there's actually a monthly feedback we need to provide to the FSCA as to who's our investors, are we staying intact with what we are doing. So it's quite a stringent process from our side to first be registered with them, and thereafter to be compliant and stay compliant. But the FSCA is, so you will see a lot of these other funds guys walking away. They do not register with FSCA because they say they're not, but we are registered with the FSCA, any 12J. So I think any investment brochure will also show you this is our FSCA number and this is our 12J number, registered with SARS, and somebody can go and search for it. But that is very important to make sure that this is a registered 12J company at SARS as well as FSCA.
Yeah, now I definitely think that is always, and I want to encourage the viewers, before you make any investment, always check these kind of things that it is in place, because then you just cover yourself, because you know all the processes and procedures are in place, which is very, very important, so that you don't lose your money that you have worked for really hard. But then Francois, so for entrepreneurs going forward, even though the tax benefit will no longer be there, but obviously entrepreneurs who are still looking for funding and they think they are a good fit for venture capital, they can obviously still continue to get hold of you guys and look for funding, I assume.
Yeah, definitely. Look, as I say, I think entrepreneurship and even more so venture capital is still in very early stages. In South Africa, we see larger guys like Knife Capital, those are doing the first exits. And exit is being after they have reached their target of helping this company grow. And it's unbelievable to see they're exiting two companies in the USA and all around the world, meaning they have solidified this company to such an extent that they are actually international players now. So venture capital really has a large impact in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. But just because you need funding, it's not that you need VC funding. It might be that you need bridge funding from a bank, or you need to overdraft, or any other means. I mean, you must just make sure that what you signed up for is VC funding. So there's a lot of upskilling still needs to happen in South Africa about what is PE funding, what is VC funding, where does angel investing fit in, where does family and friends fit in, or private investor. But VC funding is a great tool for anyone that has reached a point where he has a proven concept, the MVP is there, he shows some traction already. So yeah, I think I would encourage anyone that wants to grow his business to search for VC. Each VC is also a bit different as to are they more hands-on approach or just as a silent investor. But we are maturing as a sector as well to say, but this is actually VC. But yeah, we are getting there, and VCs will always be there, and I think we are on a stage where VC funding is more needed than ever before after COVID. And as you rightly mentioned, so many people have started their own businesses, and I would encourage people to start out the business and reach out to any type of funding to find out where you fit in.
Yeah, and I think what I really like about venture capital or even the 12J investments is that you are not only investing your money with a bank or with some kind of fund or whatever, but you are actually, there's almost a second part to it in terms of where you can really contribute to creating more jobs, to getting entrepreneurs, really growing and becoming big businesses. So I think it's more about like you can really make a bigger impact in South Africa by investing your money into these ventures. So I would definitely encourage the viewers that if this is something that appeals to you, get hold of Francois and see how you can invest your money and still hopefully make use of the 12J tax benefits before the end of June 2021. But then, Francois, the last question, I think now with 12J specifically coming to an end, what other options are there still available to support entrepreneurs if you want to invest your money in this way?
It's a great question, Ronel. I think if anyone wants to support South African entrepreneurs, is go out and buy from them. Go to Facebook Marketplace, go to anywhere and support these guys directly. I mean, you can on Takealot, there are a lot of small guys making use of Takealot to get their products out there. and not go to the big corporates. And I think that will be a direct impact on entrepreneurship, and that's one way of insisting. If you do have spare capital available and want to invest it in entrepreneurship, one way is there's a lot of crowdfunding campaigns currently out there. Crowdfunding, I think it's still a very attainable way of putting some cash into alternative investment. You don't want to put it in a pension fund. I don't want to put it in my money in a pension fund. Maybe you don't also want to put your money in a pension fund. And so platforms like crowdfunding platforms are really there. If you really want to take, I think it's a lot of risk you take is invest direct with the entrepreneur. There's a lot of small things in investing that one must make sure. Is there legal contracts in place? Is there roles and responsibilities of both the entrepreneur as well as the expectation from the shareholder? Is it initially? And that is what we, from our advisory side, actually spend a lot of time on, is actually coaching guys who want to invest money as well. So look for these pitfalls. Ask these questions. Have you discussed this? Because what happens is an entrepreneur, unfortunately, only come asking for money when it's almost too late. He wants the money now. And we don't have time for contracts now. And what the question you're asking is silly. It's not silly questions, very good questions, because I'm getting involved in your business for the long term. So make sure that you ask the right questions before, and make sure, and there's a lot of great attorneys currently assisting with that, as well as we also do that. But for the entrepreneur, I think it's very important for an entrepreneur to understand business is not just about the knowledge in your head. No, it's about networking and funding as well. So I think those three pillars are actually the top of anything. Just because you know what you are doing doesn't mean you're going to be a successful business. No, reach out to people, network in the right place, read the right books, upskill yourself in the knowledge you need, and you do need funding as well. So there's a lot of, so for entrepreneur, if you have the knowledge, before you get to the funding, there's a lot of nice incubating programs out there. Stellenbosch University has Launch Lab. A lot of the VCs also has their own incubating process, like Groundstone. And that is usually a 6 to 18 month process where they walk with the entrepreneur, help upskilling him in the more softer skills of a business. What's it be to be a leader? What is the roles and responsibility of you as employee? But what is your responsibilities as a director and a shareholder as well? What is distribution channels? What's distribution? And in those processes, you actually meet a lot of other people as well. So I would encourage entrepreneurs also to look for incubating programs out there. Some of them cost money and others are free. And many VCs, as soon as you get funding from them, one of the requirements is that you actually attend one of these incubating programs as well. Because they want to make sure that upskill you in the process as well. So for entrepreneurs, go look for incubating processes. For investors, search crowdfunding platform or reach out to attorneys specializing in startups. Reach out to consultants and advisories to help you make that decision, as it's actually a very important decision to make.
Absolutely. I think, Francois, you have shared so much valuable information, and we all know that entrepreneurship and running a business is unfortunately not taught at school or university, and a lot of it you only realize when you are practically doing it. Because I know kind of my corporate career of so many, of like almost 2 decades, couldn't prepare me for when I've started out my own businesses. And it's important to learn from others, and do not assume that you know everything, because I promise you don't know everything. So make use of these programs, and you've heard a lot of good advice now from Francois. And so Francois, thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience with us today. Like I said, I'm going to share Francois's details. So if you are an investor and you're looking for good opportunities, remember it's still a great tax saving that you can benefit from if you jump quickly into it before the end of June. So if it is something that you're interested, discuss it with Francois, see if it works for you. And then also just remember that nothing that we are sharing here today is financial advice. It's purely educational to give you the information, but check with an expert to make sure you are making the best possible decision for yourself. So I hope you have enjoyed this discussion today. I think there's a lot to think about, but definitely very worthwhile to find out more about it if you are interested, or if you have money and you still want to make use of this tax benefit. Then I just want to remind you again, remember to subscribe and also enter the book giveaway competition. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have any questions, put it in the comments field and we will get back to you. And then we will see you again at the next Ronel Talks Money show.
Thank you, Ronel. Great being here.